Now, if the country is having human rights education in the schools, the notion, conveying notions of respect and tolerance, these are important ideas. In the Yugoslav peace negotiations, when we sat down with people like Milosevic and Karadzic and a whole lot of them, and then Karadzic had a deputy, his name was Nikola Kolivic. He had translated the entire body of the works of Shakespeare into Serbian. And then I have in my notes Kolivic, who was a professor, saying, we cannot live with these Muslims. We cannot coexist with them. Our laws are different. Our mores are different. And then I found myself thinking, how could this man possibly utter these words? And so a Serbian mother teaches her child to avenge the loss of Kosovo on the Battle of Kosovo-Polje in the year 1389. And so when you ask yourself the question, how can we tackle this? I don't see any other answer than introducing into the mind of the child the idea of the values of respect and tolerance. So human rights education. And then the last one. Does the society have in place arrangements to detect and to head off grievances or gross violations of human rights before they occur? The society must be constantly monitoring itself. I was born and raised in a country that was then British Guyana, and now it's independent Guyana. We have the land surface of Great Britain. We have less than 1 million people, but we have 6 ethnic groups. And between the 2 main ethnic groups, there is a very tenuous coexistence. The society has to have in place arrangements to detect grievances and to address those grievances. Otherwise, the society is headed for difficulties. So now, until now, and I will come to a close, until now I have told you, there is this quest for human rights in all parts of the world. This quest synthesizes with the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. I must now say that I place the countries of the world in 4 categories. Those that are somewhat advanced on human rights, with nobody being perfect. Those that are modestly advanced. Those that are at the starting point, and those that are not yet even at the starting point. So out there in the world, there are lots and lots and lots of human rights problems. But at the end of the day, the issue is the society committing itself to walking the human rights journey on the basis of the international human rights law? Having said this, let me just briefly address the issues of self-determination and the right to vote and to be elected. Allow me to say so that as I read the literature on this situation here, and as I recall the books and the texts, etc., on self-determination, we're dealing here with the self-determination situation. And the law of self-determination in its contemporary manifestation places the accent on the territorial integrity of states. So I just ask you to hold that in mind. And therefore, the law, however, says self-determination must be external self-determination and internal self-determination. And if you want to read this up, there is a book edited by a man called Lou Henkin, The International Bill of Human Rights, and there is a chapter on the right to self-determination by a great Italian international law professor, Antonio Cassesi. So I will say no more about this, but I will ask you to factor into your thinking that we're dealing with a situation that also brings into the picture the right of self-determination. And in Cassesi's interpretation, self-determination must be respectful of Article 25 of the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. In the book that I just gave to our chair, there is a chapter on democracy as a human rights. And Professor Henkin, for example, in his writings, argues for democracy to be recognized as a human right. The UN Human Rights Commission, the ONU Commission, has affirmed that democracy is a human right. So we have these two concepts very much integrated: self-determination and democracy, and the right to vote and to be elected. And Madam Chair, I wonder if I may just say this. I have the sense that we are dealing here with a situation with issues that require diplomacy, negotiation, and persuasion rather than litigation. I'm choosing my words very carefully. And so, keeping this in mind, I wonder how it is that the part can engage in diplomacy, negotiation, and persuasion to help walk this path towards convergence on the basis of international human rights laws. And here, I think that the part may have a role to play in helping the whole. And so the part will really have to ask the question, can we help the whole by cursing the whole? And so there are issues that have to be thought through here. But so, the concept of the national protection system helps the part to take the whole along. In my teaching here and my interactions with the students and with the faculty and with people, I have formed two impressions. First of all, that here in Hong Kong, there is a remarkable opportunity to have a window into the world of Asia. And there is a remarkable opportunity to have a direct road to the heart of China. So I'm asking myself, how can the part take the whole along the road of convergence? And I have two thoughts that I want to leave you with. I don't know much about your constitutional structures and whatnot. I didn't have enough time to read them. But I have conceptually the idea that it might be useful to have a legislative committee on what I would call convergence. A legislative committee on convergence that gives convergence the concept that we have to converge on the terrain of the highest standard of respect for human rights. And so we have to walk this journey together. I placed that thought before you. And then I found myself thinking on many occasions, and when I interact with my own students, I've sensed this, that in a spirit of confidence building and tact, an institution like the University of Hong Kong could help give content to some of these convergence issues. I will take the plane at 11:45 this evening. I probably will never return, but nevertheless, I will launch the idea that I think that the University of Hong Kong should have a center for international law and human rights in Asia. I chose my words carefully there again. A center for international law, so we can talk about international law in a broader context, and a center for human rights that is reaching out. When I discuss with my students ASEAN's effort to draft a human right, something for a human rights body, one of my students said speaking about something else, that he was thinking about Harry Potter, and I think about Harry Potter when I see what ASEAN people are doing. But why can't an institution like this say, okay, we will contribute through scholarship to some of these issues? So I think I should end on I think I should end by inviting you to let the part and the whole should walk this journey together, even if they walk in parallel. The end of the road has to be convergence on the basis of the international human rights standards. And I think that I have the distinct sense that in walking this journey together, diplomacy, tact, persuasion, and negotiation might do well. But anyhow, I leave it to you. Thank you.